Inventory levels in the Philadelphia suburbs are changing, but not in the same direction everywhere. Inventory levels in the Philadelphia suburbs might be the most important variable to understand if you're buying or selling a home in 2026. It's more important than national headlines. It's more important than buyer sentiment. I think it's equally as important as pricing your home correctly. Inventory levels determine who has the leverage in the Philly suburbs. It changes when you have leverage, where you have leverage, and how you can use that leverage to get the best real estate transaction you can. So across the Philadelphia suburbs, inventory is changing, but not in the same direction everywhere. In some towns, in some counties, you're starting to see modest increases in inventory. It's good news for buyers. However, in other towns, inventory remains historically tight, which can be frustrating depending on where you want to live. And then in other towns, it's going to vary potentially block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood. And you need to understand these differences if you're going to make an educated real estate decision in 2026. So this video will walk through inventory levels in Chester County, along the main line, up in Bucks County, and then we'll go over into New Jersey, look at Camden County, and then we will work our way down to the shore and examine inventory levels there as well. So quick shameless plug, I love giving you guys information on the Philadelphia suburbs real estate market. I want to keep doing it, so please like, subscribe, do all the fun YouTube things. And now my plug is over. Let's dive into the video. So let's talk about why inventory matters to you if you're looking to get involved in a real estate transaction in 2026, whether you're a buyer or a seller. So markets can either be a seller's market, a balanced market, or a buyer's market. And how is that measured? Typically in terms of average or median days on market. So how that works is if houses are on average selling in less than 3 months, that's considered a seller's market. Anywhere from 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 months, that is considered a balanced market. And anything north of that, then we are seeing a seller's market. So this all gets back to inventory. So right now, where are we? We're still in a seller's market. We are still seeing a lot of seller dominance. Homes, depending on where you're looking, can be going as fast as 1 to 2 months on average, or 1 to 2 weeks rather on average. Some are going a little bit more than that. Some are creeping north of 8 weeks on average, but across the Philly suburbs, we're looking at about 4 to 8 weeks. So what does that mean for you? It means that while we are not in the complete seller dominance that we saw a few years ago, we are seeing some buyer power come back. What we're seeing in terms of buyer power is negotiations are back on the table, inspections are back on the table, and a little bit less competition for each home. Buyers are getting a little more selective in how they're picking and choosing homes. The biggest way is in terms of price. Pricing can kill sellers now. If you overprice your home, you're just not going to have people coming through the door. It's going to hurt the competition for your home, which is ultimately going to lead to a less than ideal price for your home. Overpricing is brutal. So let's dive in and talk about inventory in each of the different locations that I talked about at the start of the video. So let's start with Chester County. So Chester County is experiencing one of the bigger inventory increases in the Philadelphia suburbs right now. So while this is technically good news for buyers, there's more options coming up, especially those entry level and those mid-sized buyers. It's rare to get increases in inventory these days in the Philadelphia suburbs, so good news. But inventory is not increasing to the same extent across Chester County. So if you look at desirable school districts, quote unquote desirable towns, all of these, it might not be desirable for you, but I'm speaking generally here. So what am I talking about? Westchester, Downingtown, Malvern, Phoenixville, you're still seeing pretty low days on market for those areas. Why? Walkable downtowns, good restaurants, fun bars to go to, great schools. So people still want to be in these areas. So when houses come up, they get snatched up pretty quickly, keeping inventory low. What else is happening there? Move up sellers. So maybe you went to not your ideal suburban neighborhood a few years ago when interest rates were super ideal. Now, whatever's changed for you financially, you're moving up. These are areas that those people are moving to. So their homes are opening up behind them. So you're seeing an increase in Chester County inventory. Beyond that, we're seeing increases in new construction in Chester County. Again, this isn't happening everywhere, but you can find new construction. It's probably the highest rate of new construction in the Philadelphia suburbs. So if that is something you are ideally looking for, Chester County is probably where you want to be looking. And you're also seeing slightly longer than the rest of the Philly suburbs in terms of days on market for overpriced homes. If you're looking through there, I bet you're seeing a lot of people dropping out of the market who listed too high. You're seeing active listings with price reductions. You're going to get punished here because there are other options for buyers. It's not like other towns, let's say the main line, which we're going to get into next, where because there's such low inventory, you can still kind of get away with overpricing, and someone just wants to be there so badly that they'll pay that premium essentially to say, I live along the main line. So, what to take away here? Inventory gains have led to slightly more buyer choice, but in super desirable areas, great school districts, walkable downtowns, it's still going to be tight because they get snatched up quick. So let's turn to the main line, which I just referenced. And for those of you who are tuning in and hoping I'm going to say there's been some revitalization of the mainline inventory, I'm sorry, but this is the area where it's remaining historically tight. Now, so if you're looking at towns like Ardmore, Bryn Mawr, Haverford, Wayne, Villanova, it's still hard to get into these towns. There's a few reasons for this. One, there's limited land for new development. People have been here for decades. It's been desirable for decades. Everywhere you can build, people are building. I mean, even if you look at Jason Kelsey, he's waiting for his neighbors to move so he can buy their land and make his new compound. Even Philly Eagles legends are fighting to get their little footprint along the main line. What else? High homeowner tenure. Once you get there, most people don't want to leave. Great lifestyle, great schools, great towns, pretty easy access into Philly. It's an ideal place to be. People don't just want to give that up. So you're not seeing a ton of churn along the main line either. Strong school districts and consistent interest from luxury buyers and relocators alike. So if you go down to DC, if you go out to New York, you can mention the main line in Philadelphia. People know generally what you're talking about. You're not going to get that same reaction if you say like Bucks County or Westchester. You say Westchester up in New York, they think Westchester, New York. The main line has a unique draw and it's known from relocators. So Bucks County, heading up north a bit. So inventory is extremely varied depending on where you're looking in Bucks County. So very desirable downtowns, especially in good school districts. So in terms of extremely desirable towns, Newtown, Yardley, Richboro, they remain tight, and it remains even tighter when you get into school districts like, let's say, Council Rock. It's going to be the hardest in Bucks County to find homes in areas like that. However, there is a bit of a middle ground. For example, Doylestown, we've seen a slight increase in inventory, especially in the higher price brackets and or in older buying stock. So you're going to see a little more availability when you're looking at homes from, let's say, the early 1900s, mid 1900s, rather than new construction. There is a desire right now from buyers generally to have a turnkey product that you can just move into. You don't have to worry about doing any minor or potentially major renovations, especially on those older houses. And in terms of the luxury pricing band, there's been an opening, I would say, Philly-wide there, especially when you get to that 1.2 million and up. Buyers are seeing a lot more power there. So that can be something to take advantage of in that Bucks County area if that's the price you're looking at. Again, like I mentioned earlier, those entry-level, mid-level buyers, it's going to still be difficult in Bucks County. Except if you start looking towards the edge of the county, if you get closer to that rural feel for your home, that might be ideal for you. I love being out in the middle of nowhere. I hate calling it the middle of nowhere. I grew up near farms. I think it's the best. I think it's a great way to raise a family. I think it's a great way to get out of the city while still having access, especially in Bucks County, you have access to both New York and Philly. I think that might be an ideal way of living. So if that's what you're interested in, you can absolutely find inventory available there in Bucks County. So let's head over to Delaware. We're in New Jersey now. Let's talk about Camden County. Camden County, in terms of the varied inventory, has a similar feel to Bucks County. There are going to be some areas that are really tight. It's going to be hard to fight your way into those areas. Others, you're going to have a little more leverage as buyers. You're going to have to price a little more accurately as sellers. So what am I talking about in terms of specific towns? So Moorestown, Haddonfield, that's going to feel more like the main line. Inventory is really tight. You have really good schools. You have great downtowns. You have super easy access in terms of commuting, whether by train or driving into Philly. It's going to be a fight to get in here. We've seen that for years now. I don't think we're going to see that change much in the future unless we see some insane market shift that I just can't predict right now. But it's going to be a fight in those towns. Now, where we're seeing a little more difference is in both Cherry Hill and in Medford, but for different reasons. Cherry Hill, it's going to have that block by block feel of differences. There are absolutely some locations that have a lot more inventory, but you need to want that lifestyle. It's that transition lifestyle between downtown Philly and full-on suburban lifestyle. I know that's fantastic. That's what I was looking for when I was a bit younger. It's a great place to be if that's what you're interested in. But you have to, as a seller, know that you're competing with the PA side of that as well. So you're thinking Bala, Conchi, those areas are going to be some of Cherry Hill's biggest competitors, even though you think Jersey would compete with Jersey, PA would compete with PA. When you're looking at metro areas, you have to look at the entire metro area. So just know as a seller, you're not just competing with other New Jersey sellers. You're competing with PA sellers as well, which brings me to Medford. So Medford, you're also going to be competing with PA sellers. And part and parcel with that is you need to factor in taxes. So PA is going to have a more favorable taxation structure than New Jersey is. And people are going to factor that into what they're willing to pay for a home. So there is more inventory in Medford. There's more space to develop in Medford. I love that area. I think the homes are beautiful, still great schools. So it's not going to be a full-on balanced market. We're nowhere near a buyer's market in that area, but there's a little more wiggle room than, say, if you're looking at Haddonfield. But that wiggle room does come with a price because you're competing with PA wiggle room too. So just keep that in mind if you're a seller. Buyers are going to have a little more leverage here than, let's say, if you're looking at some of the other Jersey or PA suburbs. And now just briefly, let's talk about the Shore. Some of you, maybe you're looking for your second home. Maybe you just want to live there full time. Maybe you're a retiree, whatever it might be. The Shore has unique dynamics. And I just want to step back here and describe what I mean by the Shore. So I mean from that southern tip, Cape May, up through Stone Harbor, Avalon, Sea Isle, and Wildwood. That strip is what I'm referring to as the Shore. That's the strip I know. That's the strip I grew up going to. My grandparents have a house there. My family, other family has a house in Sea Isle. Gone to Cape May multiple times with my in-laws. I love that stretch. So what we're talking about in terms of Shore inventory. So extremely tight. And this is for two main reasons. One is that no one's really being forced to sell like they were, let's say, in '08 at the Shore. People have a strong desire to be there. It's a very good investment. We've seen insane appreciation on those Shore houses, especially over the last, let's say, 8 years. And beyond that, it's geographically very constrained, which is then further constrained by zoning restrictions. So in terms of geographics, I mean, think about Stone Harbor and Avalon. It's called 7 Mile Island for a reason. There's only 7 miles to build on. Part of that is obviously going to be protected land. You can't build too close to the bay or the ocean. Your house will just get washed away. So geographically, there's limited space to work with. It's going to be a fight for that limited space. Beyond that, zoning. When I think of zoning at the shore, I think more of Cape May as a perfect example of that. There's going to be a lot of protected land. You have beautiful parks, but what those parks prevent is new development there. So even if maybe you have a little more area to work with than 7 Mile Island, there's actually not that much more developable area. So keeping that in mind, it's very important that both buyers and sellers, more buyers here, are keenly aware of their exact target location for the shore. Timing has to be almost perfect, but it is still possible to get that shore house of your dreams. I'd love to help you figure that out. We just got to figure out exactly where you want to be. So, one big takeaway before I dive into strategy points for both buyers and sellers. My big takeaway, if you listen to other videos I've made, you will have heard this a million times. If you listen in the future, I'm sure you will hear it again. Price point matters now more than ever. As buyers are getting a little more power back, sellers need to be careful about how they're pricing their homes. So if you look a few years ago, when demand was up, rates were great, and sellers really had a ton of power in the market, you could overprice a bit and get away with it because people wanted to move so bad. People were fleeing cities after the pandemic. That is not the case anymore. Overpriced homes are getting punished. They're getting no one through the door on open houses. You're getting fewer and fewer offers. You're actively losing negotiation power. And then you get into that horror show territory where maybe we're going to have to drop the price where it's active. Maybe we're going to have to fully delist. If we do delist, are we just waiting a month and then going to come back and hope people forgot what they saw on Redfin, Zillow, all those, or what their agent told them? Are we going to wait a full year? And then is the market going to be as favorable? Maybe by then we're a balanced market and we're really struggling because of that initial overpricing. So overpricing is potentially the most harmful thing sellers can do in the current market. You have to realize it's not a few years ago. It's not endless buyer demand. Buyers are getting pickier. They're not as flush with cash as they were when rates were low and money was easy to borrow, cheap to borrow. So all this has to be taken into account. Okay, rant over. Strategic takeaways for buyers and sellers. So buyers, inventory relief does not mean that we are heading towards a buyer's market. First of all, the inventory relief isn't universal. For example, if you want to be in the main line, you're not really seeing inventory relief. It's still very difficult to find well-priced homes there. Leverage will come from preparation, not necessarily waiting. When you think about the risks of buying, maybe at certain rates, maybe at certain levels of inventory, partially you're just missing time in the market. Real estate is an investment, whether you're viewing it as that or not. Getting in earlier usually leads to bigger gains in the long term. But beyond that, there's no guarantee that we're going to fully flip into a buyer's market next year, 2 years, 5 years from now. You might be looking at this in 2027 saying, boy, I wish I listened to Eric and committed to buying a home last year. So keep that in mind. Come prepared, know where you want to look, know what the specifics of your deal generally should be. I'd love to help you narrow that down, but have an idea of how you want to come in prepared, and we can really get that focused. Beyond that, you need to look at the very specific micro location that you are targeting. You can't look at Chester County and say, oh, I have a sense, because the difference between looking at Coatesville and looking 5 minutes away from downtown Malvern is going to be drastic. So you need to know where you ideally want to be. Now, for sellers, pricing strategy matters more than ever. I won't give you the whole spiel again, but I know that I want to. It's extremely important. It's the most important decision you will make in terms of the active process of listing your home. take it seriously, work with an agent who takes it seriously, and make sure that if anything, you're missing low because the market's going to take care of that. If you miss high, the market will punish. So inventory competition is hyper local. Just like I just told any buyers listening, when you're selling, you need to be looking at your neighborhood, at your school district, at your immediate within 3-5 mile geography. It does not help you if you are selling your home in the further northwest edge of Bucks County to compare yourself to someone selling right next to Doylestown. It's going to be an entirely different price point strategy session. So the final thing to take away for sellers, buyers are absolutely still active. We just finished up the Super Bowl. Thank God the Pats lost. Spent way too much time around Boston fans from the age of like 18 to 26. I'm over it. I don't need to see any more Pats victories. But anyway, sorry, buyers are still active, but they're more analytical. They understand that negotiations are coming back, inspections are coming back, and that gives them some power. Don't give them even more power by having a bad price point. Make it so that they have to start competing with each other. That's how you start getting more favorable offers. That's how buyers start losing negotiating power. It's an under talked about thing with lowering your price. When buyers are competing with each other, they lose power to you. Okay, so final thoughts. Inventory in the Philadelphia suburbs is absolutely changing, but it's not changing the same way everywhere. Inventory in the Philadelphia suburbs can best be described as uneven, localized, and strategic. So, just a quick recap of each area. Chester County, you are seeing inventory increases, but it's not universally increasing. You need to know exactly where you're looking. The mainline inventory is historically tight. We are not seeing the type of relief that we're seeing in Chester County. Bucks County, and then if we're looking at Cherry Hill as well, the story is localization. There are some micro markets, sub-markets, especially near downtowns, that have walkability with good commutes for relocators from the Philly and the suburbs that are going to remain super tight. Other areas, particularly when you get a little more rural, they're going to open up a bit. Buyers have a little more power. And then the shore is always tight, but we can make it happen for you. So the buyers and sellers who succeed in the 2026 Philadelphia suburban real estate market are those that come in prepared, understand inventory, understand pricing, and are thinking in a hyper local way. National headlines, state headlines, county headlines are not going to help you prepare in the way you need to succeed in buying or selling a home in the Philadelphia suburbs. I want to help you buy that dream home. I want to help you sell that home and then find the home of your dreams. Please reach out and let's get started.